Hello, my name is Sam Stacey. Today I'm going to explain the physiological factors of exercising in the cold. Here is my contents page. Humans are homeothermic. The human body uses thermoregulation. This means that our bodies change and adapt to hot and cold environments. As humans are endotherms, meaning we are warm-blooded. Physiological thermoregulation can be controlled through a region in our brain called the hypothalamus. This region regulates the human body temperature, which is set at 37 degrees Celsius. Daily fluctuations can be as much as 1 degree. The decrease in temperatures are felt through receptors in the skin. Cardiovascular adjustments are made by vasoconstriction of the blood vessels. This sends the blood deeper into the core of the body. This alone will not stop heat loss. Sweating is shut down to prevent evaporation from the skin. Receptors on the skin will send signals to the hypothalamus to release thyroid hormones, which regulates metabolism, leading to heat production. The same organ in the brain stimulates shivering in skeletal muscles, allowing for heat production through shivering, which we'll look at later. The sympathetic nervous system controls the adrenal media, which is located above the kidneys and produces adrenaline. This helps the metabolic process. Norepinephrine is also secreted from the same location, which improves vasoconstriction of peripheral blood vessels. As you can see from the image on the screen of a human body placed in a cold environment, the image on the left, drains body heat away from the peripheral limbs, such as the arms and legs. Small muscles just below the skin help to pull hairs up on the body to stand on end, also known as piloerection. This provides extra insulation, trapping air against the surface of the skin. The image on the right is the comparison to a person in a warm environment, with all areas of the body close to or at 37 degrees or more. There are four main ways we can lose heat: through heat radiation from the body, through conduction of the things we physically touch. This can be through the floor or clothing, evaporation via sweating from a liquid to a gas, through convection, for example wind chill. On the right of the slide, you can see the result of the wind chill represented in a table. The graph shows the risk of frostbite with time exposure. The colder the air temperature combined with strong wind speeds, the quicker you are likely to catch frostbite. Why is exercising in the cold a problem? More oxygen is needed for people working in colder environments up to a certain workload. As studies have suggested and concluded that cardiac output was increased in light to moderate exercise before levels evened out and matched levels to those who worked in warmer conditions. Clothing must be worn when exercising in the cold to keep body temperature regulated. However, if the clothing is too restricted, then more energy will have to be expended and you would have to work harder. Muscles have less force when they are cool. Muscle shortening velocity and power decrease when muscle temperature is lowered. Muscles can fatigue when running a marathon or working out for a sustained period of time. Therefore, muscles are not moving as fast, and metabolic heat loss levels will increase, cooling the body temperature down. Why can exercising in the cold be good for you? Brown adipose tissue is good body fat. It is essential fat that keeps you warm when you are cold. Brown adipose fat serves to increase your core temperature. When it activates, it burns white adipose fat. This fat is no good as it builds up around your torso and thighs. Calories are burned to keep yourself warm outside if it is cold. Therefore, you burn more calories to keep warm before you exercise. Shivering can activate the brown fat tissue. Therefore, shivering before exercise can help to burn fat quicker. Heart rate can be, but not always, lower during exercise in the cold, this having a positive impact on effort levels. However, stroke volume is higher. How does the body react? There are lots of different ways the body can react, and here on screen are just some of them. Raynaud's disease affects mainly females and about 40% of the population. The age range of the people likely to get the disease is between 15 and 30 years of age. Frostbite is when the body attempts at warming peripheral regions of the body, such as fingers, nose, and ears. In extreme cases, toes can also be frostbitten. Vasoconstriction of the peripheral arteries occurs when the body is exposed to extremely low temperatures. Circulation of the blood decreases in these areas of the body. The lack of oxygen and nutrients in the blood kills off cells, leading to frostbite. Hypothermia is a condition when the body temperature is lower than normal, and normal physiological performance is impaired or impossible. Hypothermia can be split into three main stages, the first being a drop of 1 or 2 degrees below normal. Stage 2 consists of temperature drops of 2 to 4 degrees. Stage 3 is when all physiological systems start to shut down. This is a major problem in pupils that become cold and damp in a secondary school PE lesson setting. There have been many studies on this subject. One study suggests that after men had their thighs in cold water for 45 minutes, there was a slowdown in isokinetic peak torque and power output. A leading scientist suggests that this leads to a neural conduction velocities of high threshold motor units may have been damaged. It is important for pupils to do a thorough warm-up in a cold or wet conditions before exercise. Exercise-induced asthma, although not a direct cold environment illness, exercise-induced asthma is caused by dry air found in colder climates and during cold weather. Coupled with higher levels of respiration rates when exercising, this type of illness is common in winter sport athletes. What interventions can be used for exercise in the cold? Putting on protective layers, waterproof and windproof jackets. This is important for keeping warm and staying dry. Students should balance this with the physical capabilities of the planned activity. Putting on several thin layers aids in trapping air inside the clothing. It is important to keep this dry, as water conducts heat about 20 times faster than air. Therefore, thermoregulation of body needs changing, which can lead to injury and illness. Acclimatization is important to establish a physiological advantage when exercising in cold weather. Maintaining a high metabolic rate, eating a balanced diet, and little and often is good for maintaining heat. Glucose levels need to be increased, as well as eating lots of carbohydrates, increasing heat generation. Medication can be used for Raynaud's disease. Children are more vulnerable to extreme temperatures due to the large surface area to volume ratio. They normally have growing limbs and a bigger surface area and little fat to protect from heat loss, therefore getting cold quicker. Women can withstand the cold better because they have more subcutaneous fat, which is a fat that is just under the skin's outer layer. This acts as a barrier to heat loss. However, this can be a disadvantage because women tend to have less muscle, therefore lesser heat from muscle is produced. As we've gone through this presentation, you can clearly see that environmental factors such as the cold affect the body's responses and ability to perform exercise. I just want to summarize the key findings and give a few guidelines on exercising in the cold. Individuals show much less sign of physiological change to cold stress than to prolonged heat exposure. Shivering is the main sign that someone is cold. It increases the metabolic rate by 3 to 6 METs, units of measuring the ratio of activity metabolic rates to resting metabolic rates. It is important that students especially are aware of the dangers of wet clothing during PE lessons. This is a quick way of getting cold, and it is important as a physical education teacher to spot the signs of hypothermia earlier. This will prevent things like frostbite becoming an issue. Children are more likely to cool down quicker in cold temperatures due to their surface area to volume ratio. Wind and water have a negative impact on how quickly the body can lose heat, and care must be taken in the planning stages of a lesson to make the warm-up more vigorous and extend the times it takes to allow pupils to warm up. If a child becomes too cold, it is paramount that you move them to a dry and warm environment to allow them to overcome the stresses of cold exposure. I hope you enjoyed my presentation and have learned something new, and can now take this away for your own teaching practices and use it as a teaching aid.